Citizens, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're listening to this on a stable surface. This is Audric Cashmere with an emergency public service announcement from the Crystal Network. It would appear that our optimism from last week was, well, a bit premature. The behemoth has not currently left. It stumbled onto something. Lord Kendrick's scouts have confirmed that an ancient unknown Zaratan, a living island of earth and stone, has been slumbering under the northern ridge of the plateau for centuries, and it has taken an extreme exception to the behemoth's presence. What you are feeling right now, those rhythmic, bone-deep thuds, that is not thunder. That is the sound of two titans colliding at the far end of the plateau. Lord Kendrick has his men monitoring the situation from a safe distance, and he does assure us that the combat is localized to the base of the mountains. We are advised to stay away from cliffs and to secure any loose shelving. Yes, I know, it's frightening, Moonhaven. The vibration is making the broadcast crystals hum in a way that I have never heard before, but remember, we are protected by the geography of the falls. Even if the plateau shakes, we are nestled in the bedrock below, and as long as the water flows, we're... Wait, Timmy? Why are the monitors doing? Listeners, I would ask you to please look out your windows. The roar is gone. The waterfall appears to have just stopped. From what I can see, there's currently nothing but a trickle. It would appear that something has happened up top. The water's just... We'll be right back. Good afternoon to you, the Archmages. A respectful bow to His Majesty and the nobles. A jaunty salute to the farriers, the Night Watch, the businessmen, and as ever, to my fellow citizens from all walks of life, here in the Lost Realms. Welcome back to Crossroads Chronicles, the show that pulls back the curtain on the most intriguing lives across the Lost Realms. Today we have a guest who has captivated audiences across the realm with her dazzling displays, yet she wields no spellbook, no arcane focus, no divine favor. Please extend a perfectly warm welcome to the one and only Madam Moonchaser, the Tabaxi Master of Illusion.
Good afternoon, dear listeners. It is a delight to be here, and to perhaps enlighten a few minds.
Now, Madam Moonchaser, your stage shows are legendary. From the Broken Coast's grandest theaters to the most exclusive of enclaves, you leave your audiences spellbound. Yet, you openly declare that your illusions are just sleight of hand, not magic. How exactly do you manage to astound even the most seasoned mages in the audience?
And that is where the real fun begins, isn't it? Anyone with inborn talent can wave their paws and conjure a fireball. But to make the fireball seem to appear from thin air, with no arcane energy, no incantation, no residue, that requires a very different kind of mastery, yes? It is about understanding perception, the clever manipulation of light and shadow, the subtle misdirection of the eye, and, of course, the art of the swift paw.
And you've been known to cause quite a stir amongst mages who attend your performances. I've heard tales of frustrated wizards muttering about undetectable enchantments and unseen forces. Do you enjoy perplexing them?
To see a high-elf wizard, brimming with centuries of arcane knowledge, scratching at his pointed ears in utter bewilderment, convinced he has just witnessed some new form of innate magic, well, it does bring a certain warmth to my chest. I must admit, when they search for the magical signature, the aura, the residual energy, and they find nothing, only precise timing, well-honed skill, well, that is a delightful reversal, is it not? They try to analyze it with their spells, and my lack of magic becomes the most impenetrable barrier of all.
So would you say you take a, shall we call it, perverse delight in their frustration?
Perverse is such a strong word. I prefer to think of it as a pedagogical experience. It reminds them that not everything in the realms is explained by the weave. Sometimes the greatest wonders are woven by ingenuity, not incantation. It is a challenge to their rigid understanding of reality, and when they leave my show, baffled, but thoroughly entertained, I consider that a triumph of the mundane over the magical.
A triumph indeed. Now, you're famous for your disappearing dragon act. How do you prepare for such a grand-scale trick without any actual magic?
It is all about meticulous planning, perfectly calibrated mechanisms, and a deep understanding of psychology. The smoke, the sound, the build-up of anticipation, it all works in concert to guide the audience's attention to exactly where I want it, and crucially, away from where the real secret lies. Every flicker of light, every subtle movement of a prop, it is designed to create the illusion of true arcane power. And the more frustrated the magic wielders become, the more convinced the common folk are that they have seen something truly impossible.
And that is utterly fascinating. What message do you hope that your audiences take away from your performances, beyond, obviously, the sheer spectacle?
Only that the world is full of wonders, both the seen and the unseen, both magical and delightfully mundane, and that sometimes the greatest mysteries are the ones that we create with our own hands and minds, and that perhaps not everything needs a spell slot to be utterly astonishing. Sometimes all it takes is a little persuasion and a lot of practice.
Beautifully put, Madam Moonchaser, and you've truly shown us that the greatest illusions are often the ones we create ourselves. Madam Moonchaser, the Tabaxi Master of Illusion, thank you so much for sharing your delightful insights with us here on Crossroads Chronicles. May your show always be magically baffling.
The pleasure was all mine, dear listeners, and may your own perceptions always be delightfully challenged.
That was the captivating Madam Moonchaser, proving that sometimes the most profound magic is not magic at all. This is Audric Cashmere with Crossroads Chronicles, here on the Lost Realms Crystal Network.
Good afternoon, Moonhaven Falls, and a particularly pointed hello to the gentleman in the rusted kettle helm, currently trying to pick the lock on my foothills gate with a sharpened spoon. Yes, I see you. No, it won't work. I've spent the morning watching a group of your sturdiest adventurers through my looking glass, to the group that spent 3 hours attempting to intimidate a waterfall in response to my riddle. That was truly moving. I haven't laughed that hard since my run-in with Timothy when I first moved to the Dragon's Spine. I'm told young Timmy at the station is keeping a tally of the most creative and spectacularly wrong guesses. Do try to make the list. It's the closest some of you will ever come to my hoard. That said, I have spent the last 2 centuries watching empires rise and fall, and if there is one constant in this world, it is that a man with a heavy sword almost always has a remarkably light head. A tragic imbalance, truly. To remedy the local epidemic of iron-headedness, I have decided to grace your little information network with my glorious presence once a week, as I answer last week's riddles. They were 1. Time. 2. A needle. 3. A spider. 4. Tomorrow. 5. A book. 6. Darkness. And 7. A fingernail. Do consider this a mental whetstone, for if you cannot sharpen your mind, you have no business sharpening your blade anywhere near my territory. I have prepared a new hurdle for you today, and I shall prepare a new one every day for the foreseeable future. They shall begin, of course, as pebbles, and end as mountains. So listen closely. I shall not repeat myself, mostly because I find the sound of my own voice far too precious to waste on the merely inattentive. I am tall when I am young, and I am short when I am old. I tremble in the wind, yet never am I cold. What am I? Do feel free to stop by the public notice board and let me know what precisely you think the answer is to this riddle and the remaining riddles that will be posted on the doors over the course of the next week. The first of 7 obstacles now standing between you and total mental stagnation has been given. Do please give your answers to the associate down at the station. Timmy, do try to keep the ink off your nose this time. I shall review the results at the end of the week and render my verdict on your guesses sometime next week. Do remember, a closed mind is like a closed door. Eventually, it's best to open it before someone else is forced to kick it in. Until next week, Moonhaven Falls, stay clever, or at least stay quiet.
Greetings, seekers of the unseen. Audric has graciously allowed me to step behind the Crystal Network's glass yet again today. I am Elara Meadowlight, and this is the Magic Minute, though time is, as we know, merely a polite suggestion made by the sun. Now, I have been gazing toward Bahamut's plateau recently, and there's a strange shimmer in the ley line where the dragon's blood meets tears. It seems the local wildlife has begun to spontaneously manifest minor illusions of their ancestors. So, if you see a squirrel that appears to be made of starlight wearing a tiny crown, don't be alarmed. It's just a temporal echo. A minor discovery, really, but quite lovely if you don't mind the glowing fur. There are rumors circulating, though mostly among the younger apprentices, that the Whispering Caverns outside of town are vocalizing in a new key. Some theories suggest that the stone itself is learning to hum. I suspect, however, it's just Gary's influence settling into the stalactites. Regardless, if the cave starts giving you life advice, I do suggest you take it with a grain of salt. Caves are notoriously pessimistic, after all. Now, a fascinating piece of lore surfaced in my visions this morning regarding the Kronos Lantern. This was a gift once given to the town guard captain long before Elara Vancroft's time. It's currently hidden in the 3rd bucket behind the right barrel in the secondary storeroom. The funny thing about it, though, is that it doesn't light the way forward. It lights the way behind. It shows you exactly where you were 5 minutes ago. Quite useless for finding your keys, but excellent for retracing your steps when you've walked into a gelatinous cube. Now, for the laws of reality. Audric calls this nonsense, but then again, Audric thinks a fireball is just aggressive central heating. So, listen closely, for the weave is quite fickle. Many of you believe that if you have the mental fortitude to cast Expeditious Retreat as a quick thought, what some call a bonus action, you can follow it up with a grand fireball. But you cannot. The weave rejects the surge. If you use your bonus action for any spell, the only other magic you can touch in that moment is a cantrip. This is a fundamental law of magical inertia. Ignore it and you'll find your mana curdling like a week-old milk. Also, a word on simultaneous effects. If you find yourself affected by 2 different magical auras, say 2 different blessings, they do not stack their potency. You simply gain the benefit of the more powerful of the 2. You cannot layer magic like winter cloaks. The threads simply slip past one another. And finally, dark vision is not sunlight. If you are standing in total darkness, even with your elven eyes, you see in shades of gray, and you see poorly. You still have disadvantage on your perception, so stop tripping over the Shadowfen roots and then complaining to me about it. Just light a torch. Now, may your visions be clear, and your components stay dry. This has been Elara Meadowlight with your Magic Minute.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Audrey Cashmere here, reporting live from the Green Unicorn. It seems the influx of, everything, has kept our local scribes quite busy. The board is so full they've had to pin a few requests onto the tavern door itself. So, let's look at a few more opportunities for those looking to keep their coin purses heavy at the cost of a little adrenaline. First up, some easy quests. Low risk, high frustration, maybe bring a net or a magnifying glass. The first one on the list here appears to be Capture a D-Mouse. Reward is 55 gold pieces, which is fairly well. Breakdown on this one is that it seems one of Elara Meadowlight's apprentices has found a bit of a pest problem. The thing is, they're not your garden variety rodents. The apprentice has listed them as dimension mice, or D-mice. It seems they have the unsettling ability to flatten themselves to a single dimension, slipping through the microscopic gap between a door and a floor like the shadow. Best class for something like this is probably a wizard or a sorcerer. This is really a battle of geometry. You can't capture something that can turn itself into a flat line with a standard trap, after all. A caster with Hold Monster, if they're feeling spicy, or more practically Grease and Mage Hand, should be able to create a magical friction that prevents the D-mice from sliding into the between spaces. Just don't blink, or they'll disappear into the side of a bookshelf. Next on the list, Cold Storage Courier. A local butcher appears to be trying to transport a crate of prime griffin steak to the plateau, but it appears that his cooling charms have failed. He needs someone to utilize the packing snow from the town square to help keep the meat preserved for the trek. The catch? The snow is heavy, and apparently the meat attracts every hungry stray in a 3-mile radius. Best class for this one, probably a ranger. Between their natural speed through rough terrain and their ability with animal handling to make their way out of a pack of hungry wolves, Ranger can really make the delivery before the steaks, or the adventurers themselves, become a snack. Let's see, how about one more easy one? Here we go. Librarian's Silence Assistant. Reward 30 gold. The breakdown on this one is that a shipment of enchanted whispering tomes has arrived at the local archives, and they haven't stopped gossiping since they were uncrated. The librarian needs someone to sit in the vault and systematically shush the books until their binding charms reset. Best class for this one, probably a monk. This job is going to require the patience of a saint and the stillness of a mountain. A monk's disciplined mind would allow them to ignore the scandalous secrets that the books are supposedly whispering, and their key, or even just a firm meditative glare, is surprisingly effective at intimidating a talkative encyclopedia into silence. Moving up in difficulty a little bit, let's go for... here's some medium-level quests. Jobs for those who don't mind the dark, and this one looks like a good job for someone who has eyes in the back of their head as well. The Echo Well Extraction. It would appear that a group of miners near the Serpent's Tooth Mountains accidentally broke into a pocket of vocal residue. Now, a deep well in the mine is repeating every word spoken near it, but about 30 seconds later, and in the voice of a screaming banshee. Apparently, it's making work impossible. The source is a cluster of sonic crystals at the bottom of the flooded shaft. I would probably recommend at least 2 people for this. Gonna need a utility caster, so wizard or bard, someone who can cast silence or identify to pinpoint the exact frequency of the crystals. Trying to find them while your own voice screams back at you is just a recipe for a migraine, in my opinion. You're also going to need at least one person who's known for their high constitution, someone who can hold their breath really well, probably a barbarian or maybe a paladin if you can talk one of them into helping you. Water in that part of the mountain is going to be just absolutely freezing, and the psychological pressure of the echo well will be taxing too. You'll need someone who can hold their breath, dive into the dark, and then physically pry the crystals loose while resisting the urge to panic, as the well mimics their own heartbeat back at them. But on the plus side, it doesn't say anything about needing to leave the crystals behind, so you get some components and stuff too, possibly something you can sell down here in town. Looking forward a little more, the Shadowfen Serpent Sweep. This looks interesting. The local herbalist has a supply route through the Shadowfen, and it appears it has been compromised by a nest of what he is referring to as shadow vipers. I think I've heard about these. If they are what I think they are, they're just nasty pieces of work. They don't just slither, they teleport. If they can see a shadow, and are standing in a shadow, and I'm talking including yours, they can blink right into it. Now, I would say at least a party of 2, you're going to want somebody who's capable of casting a light spell, probably cleric or a paladin. Daylight guiding bolt would probably help here too. If there's no shadows after all, the Vipers have nowhere to jump to. You're also going to want a quick striker, probably monk or a rogue. Shadow Vipers are very much glass cannons. Again, assuming they are what I think they are. You need someone with really high reaction speed and good reflexes to strike the moment the snake manifests before it can blink away again. Moving on a little further, let's look for a full party one here. Oh, here we go. Nature has apparently gone truly sideways in the foothills. According to this, there is a Chimera cattle drive going on. The reward is 1,800 gold pieces and a set of Gorgon hide boots, custom fitted to your feet. Breakdown on this one, apparently we've got a biological nightmare unfolding near the Dragonspine base. A pride of highly aggressive chimeras has, for reasons known only to whatever mad god created them, started herding a flock of cockatrice. They're driving them, and down toward local farmland as well. This is definitely going to require a full party. You've got chimeras who will use their lion heads to roar, try to scatter the party, while their dragon heads rain fire from above to keep you pinned. You're definitely going to need a range specialist. I'd say likely ranger, maybe warlock, just to keep the big threats in the air while the ground team gets to work. The cockatrice flock is the real danger, though. One peck and you're a lawn ornament until you can get someone to break that particular curse. A druid with entangle, maybe a wizard with web, something like that. Mandatory, really, to slow the flock down without getting in beak range here. Definitely going to need a relatively high-level cleric. The stone to flesh safety net, because accidents will happen. Greater restoration, handful of scrolls at very least, is probably the only thing standing between your fighter and a permanent career as a statue in the town center. Chimeras acting as shepherds for petrifying chickens. You know, honestly, some days I miss the giant rats in the basement. But hey, if you're feeling brave and made of sturdy stuff, the board is waiting. So stay safe out there, Moonhaven. You're listening to the Crystal Network here in Moonhaven Falls. Welcome back to a very quiet Crystal Network. I am Audric Cashmere. It's been a couple of hours now since the great silence fell upon Moonhaven Falls. To hear my own voice echoing off the dry rock of the cliffside is frankly unsettling. But there is good news. The battle is over. Scouts report that the Zaratan has emerged victorious, having utterly destroyed the behemoth. However, it seems that its victory has a price. The struggle caused 2 massive landslides, one across Tears, and one across the Dragon's Blood River. They have formed a dual dam of truly staggering proportions. The Zaratan, apparently exhausted from the fight, has parked its massive bulk right between these 2 landslides, and appears to have begun to nest, digging itself in. It is effectively reinforcing the dams with its own gargantuan shell. A massive lake is currently forming on the plateau behind it, and we are seeing a dirty trickle of water returning to the falls, but it's mostly mud and runoff. The scouts say the Zaratan seems satisfied? Settled, at least. It's a peaceful end to a rather violent day. And while the falls are currently the drips, we do expect nature to take its course and the water to find its way around the beast in the immediate future. We survived the tremors, people. We can survive a little bit of mud. This is Audric Cashmere with the Crystal Network. Thank you very much for giving Moonhaven a chance, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes our episode for this week. We release a new episode every Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern, and I hope you found this podcast surprising, thought-provoking, and genuinely creative. If you did, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel or follow the podcast, maybe even take a moment to rate and share it with a friend or a community. It's a simple, easy action. It lets the algorithm know that you listen to and want to continue hearing these stories. If you want to give your answer to Ignis' daily challenge, I will be posting them on Facebook and Patreon. There should be a link to both pages in the description. If you'd like to engage with a specific character or just the channel in general, do please pop in, say hello, let me know what your favorite segment is. Also keep in mind that I personally write, record, and edit all the content for this show, with the occasional guest appearance from my wife and children. So, if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, or Timmy a cup of cocoa, once a month as encouragement to continue reading it, we gratefully accept. Thank you to all of our supporters, especially the increasing number of you who have reached out to tell me your favorite segments. My family and I genuinely appreciate all of you showing your support by tuning in every week, and we'd like to thank you for continuing to do so. I look forward to seeing you in the comments, and I hope you tune in again next week.